talking about what do you need to really implement programs like this, and one is to gain the support of upper management, and we heard a lot about that earlier. And it's not only top management, but it's also management within the facilities, because within our organization, each facility is responsible for their own P&L. So it's important to get the buy-off from the plant staff themselves. And I spent a lot of time the last 4 or 5 weeks in Asia meeting with a lot of the plant managers and going over like a lot of what we're talking about here. It's also important to build your subject matter experts within the business. We can't, David mentioned, we can't drive this, make this a North American effort or an IT effort. And what we were doing is actually going out to our facilities, finding the best of the best, the people who actually know the processes, bringing them in and helping us define the process, the customer complaint process, the corrective action process, the internal supplier corrective action process. We documented everything. We went through and defined all of the keywords. And so when you go in and you have a functional problem, everybody has the same problem list. That's very important. When we start doing reporting, we want to find out how many of this particular part number was based, had problems with an oil leak. Oh, we can do that now. We couldn't do that before. Oil leak was classified 7 or 8 different ways in the past. We had to engage the IT to help us design the solution. Even though I'm in IT, I'm really not an IT guy. But I assembled a team to help design the hardware. And we went out to some IBS's customers, seeing what they had in place and if they were happy with it, not happy with it. And then I pulled the IT team in and said, okay, here's the specs. We want to have these servers. We want to have them mirrored, and there's all kind of disaster recovery and things. We designed that all hardware in place. It's very fast, very quick, works globally around the world. In fact, it works as fast. I was in China and Thailand. It's just as fast there as it is sitting in the home office in Maumee. Communication throughout the organization. Everybody has to be aware of what you're doing. The last thing I want to do is walk into a facility and the plant manager go look at me and go, I've never heard of Compliant Pro. I've never heard of PLM. I don't know what you're doing. Get out of here. So we're really adamant about getting the communication out, letting the people know what we're doing, and more importantly, not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it. What impact is it going to have on them? Last week I had 2 plant managers in, and David said it, he goes, we want this 90% buy-in. Well, I happened to be with one of the 10%ers last week, and luckily I had a 90%er sitting across the other side of the table, and one said, well, I just don't see the value, and the other one says, are you seeing the same slide presentation I am? You know, it's when you have a problem within your facility, it's gathering all that evidence. How did you solve that problem? Because what's going to happen is whoever solved that problem, let's say we had some torque problems on a particular axle, that problem was solved. The evidence was actually gathered, put into Compliant Pro as to how that problem was fixed, and now even maybe a month or 2 months or a year down the road, the person's no longer working for the company, you have all that information as to how that problem was solved. And develop a regional support network. We go out, we identify the people who are the best, the experts in their area, the people that are really getting the system, and we actually make them the support people locally and have them support it. We don't have IT supporting Compliant Pro at the business level. We actually have the business supporting it. Importance of master data. This is, if anybody knows me, they know I'm the master data guy. You have to have a customer master, you have to have a supplier master, you have to have a part master. It's very important. You can't have your part numbers going in 5 different ways. You can't have customers actually in the system 3 different ways. When you want to find what's wrong with Ford Kentucky Truck Plant, we have 5 facilities supplying Ford Kentucky Truck. I have to be able to go in there and say, this is how that data is put in. It's not only put in that way, and I was talking about earlier about master data, how do we classify basic failure codes, things like that. We use that same data across all of our systems, PLM, ERP, Compliant Pro. When I say it's an oil leak or I say it's a functional issue, that same code is across all the systems. That way, when I bring data in from my ERP systems, and to tell you, we have 57 ERP systems. Twyla said we had an SAP program going on. Well, We don't need more. We still have 57, but we're pulling data from those 57 ERP systems, production data, failure data, anything that we can get from those, and we're joining them with the data from Compliant Pro to produce the reports that David was talking about. So master data, very important. Creating a robust change management. Twyla touched on this a little bit. When we put in a new version of Compliant Pro, we just don't have the group come in and say, okay, we're going to upgrade our development test and production environments in one day and off we go. We have a process where we go in and actually upgrade our development or production or test environments, yes. And we have a test plan that's developed. And we test against all of the previously submitted design suggestions that we put in, IBS's, NCMRs, their nonconformances, any previous faults that we found in the system, plus anything that we want to test on. So we do an extensive testing. Once that testing is done and signed off by the business, then we actually go into production with Compliant Pro in the next release. We don't do that just with the IBS releases. We also do it with all of our internal work. So any changes, and we make just configuration changes. So we test those configuration changes. One thing about Compliant Pro that I really like, it gives us the ability to go through and create what we call a control. So if somebody comes in and says, I want this enhancement, this change, I want this workflow to work a little bit differently, we can go into the all orgs, take a particular workflow, a particular document, create it for a single organization, do testing. Once it's proved out and it's working, then we can put that change against all of the organizations. So it's very robust. One last thing on the list here, monitor hardware and software performance. We have several teams, Linux administrators, database administrators, LAN, WAN, constantly managing and looking at monitoring the packet traffic, looking at the speed and performance of the system. The DBAs are looking at something called table space, which I have no idea what that is, but I get these notifications that the table space was increased, and I go, yeah, okay, whatever, you know, so I guess it's working, but our systems are very fast. Like I said, I'm not an IT guy, but I see all these reports. David sees the reports on the customer fails of our parts. I see them on the system. Voice of the customer, very important for us. We use the voice of the customer as being the feedback from our plant managers, our quality managers, our people actually using the product. I call it the boots on the floor. These are the people day to day. They come in with design enhancements to us. We look at them. We evaluate them. We send those design enhancements to IBS. We don't send them immediately. We actually bring our team together. We evaluate them. Is this something we should do or not do? Training and workshop. We concentrate very heavily on training. The way we implement the system is train the trainer. We do regional training. We bring the regional subject matter experts and designated trainers in. We train them, expect them to go back to the facilities and implement the training. That works out very well. Best practices, we like to identify who is doing the processes the best. We realize, again, we're in Toledo. Greg Alling also in Toledo with me. We do get out to quite a few of the facilities, but neither Greg or I have actually worked in the plants for about 5 years. So things change, our processes change. We get that feedback, and these people, they're experts in their own square footage, so we take their input. And then we have weekly update meetings and communications back to our group. What are we thinking about doing? What are we thinking about changing? And that's been very effective for us. And then ensure the consistency of procedural information. This is very important because the last thing that you want to do is just ad hoc make changes to something and really not know what you're doing, and don't make any documentation as to what was changed. So everything we do is process mapped, documented, and signed off on and going through the approval process.